In today's video, I'll be talking about how I made the switch from a business development and client servicing role in offline media into a creative and strategy role in digital marketing. Let's get into it. So hey guys, my name is Rahul Mandal, aka Mandal Bhari. I'm a brand communication and creative strategist with about 7+ years of experience. On this channel, I talk about everything marketing and help aspiring students as well as young professionals to learn and explore more about the domain. In one of my recent videos, I spoke about how I landed a job in an advertising agency, as a fresher right out of college and all that I went through. You can watch that video from the link in the description, or you can click on this link here to watch the video as well. Digital marketing is surely the buzzword of the year. After everything that we've been through in the last 1.5 years, we've seen how traditional media business has been pretty much badly hit, and everyone is trying their best to get into digital marketing. Now, a lot of you guys watching this video probably are already working in digital marketing, have newly joined digital marketing as a domain, or are switching into digital marketing, or contemplating and figuring out ways to get into digital marketing. So I thought about basically telling you my story of how I made the switch from an out-of-home and experiential agency into digital marketing, and probably along the way in the process help you guys get some perspective of how you can figure out your way into digital marketing or similar roles. From my perspective, I've always believed in this one-line mantra, which is a secret sauce of sorts, which I've always used in interviews to convince employers or recruiters that I'm the right person for the job, even if I don't come from that specialist background. Watch this video till the end, and I will also share that secret sauce with you. And it has always helped me, and you can try it out and see if it helps you as well. So my first job was in an out-of-home and experiential marketing agency, or an ambient media agency. So they had two aspects to their business. One was the media, and the second was all the innovations and activations. I worked in the aspects of business development, client servicing, and did some bit of strategy and ideation for most of the presentations that I used to work on. So while the media planning and buying team took care of all the branding that happens at all these ambient places like malls, multiplexes, on-screen and off-screen advertising, coffee shops, corporate parks, and many such. I think I remember them talking about branding opportunities at about 20+ ambient touchpoints. Now, where I found my creative outlet was basically the space of guerrilla marketing, ambient media, and activations. So I got a lot of exposure to meeting clients during new business development calls, understanding a lot about their requirements, about business in general, what are their expectations. And there were a lot of projects or campaigns where I've had the fortune to work hands-on, get on ground, execute stuff, talk to customers, which was a very important and interesting part of my experience. And I think I got a lot of on-ground learning, which is something that a lot of people today working in digital marketing, from a online perspective, don't really get. It's a very different experience to actually be on ground, connect with people, look at what kind of problems, what kind of issues they come up with, and then finding out solutions to it. So the leadership at this company was not just extremely supportive, but were constantly pushing everyone in the team, including the junior most member, to push their limits and think about crazy ideas, go out of the box, think of innovations, and come up with something very interesting that could be pitched to their clients. So I worked in this agency for a good amount of time, I think 2.5 years. And I think I started feeling that, okay, while I am doing a lot of those ideation, it is still kind of limited to offline medium of sorts. And I really wanted to go ahead and, explore the creative side of things, because I've always found that bit fascinating, and I've always wanted to be on the creative side of things actually. So I just figured that, okay, I need to start looking out and figure out a way out of home media. Get what I did there? Not very surprisingly, it took me a good 7-8 months to actually land an interview, which was in a creative or digital agency of sorts. Because every place I went to, right, everyone pretty much rejected my resume itself because ये तो outdoor वाला बंदा है, ये तो activation वाला बंदा है. My previous experience pretty much, I think everyone can relate these days. It became a hindrance to even landing an interview. So that is one kind of a challenge that I think I had to face. But what I started doing is I started applying everywhere. It was not just say bigger agencies which have a name. I started applying to startups as well because I realized that startups would be probably the people who would value experience from a bigger agency, and I could probably use that learning and bring it to a smaller startup. I mean, even as a junior role, there's certainly some value I can create, and that's where I landed an interview opportunity with a startup agency, and that's what's next. So this next place that interviewed me, I think they had the usual discussions with me, and they were equally skeptical about me being from an out-of-home background and not knowing much about digital. And their requirement was for someone who would basically come on board and take care of the social media for one of their travel and hotel booking businesses. So what I did was I used that one-line mantra which I spoke about at the beginning of this video. I kind of threw it up to them, and it got them thinking, and they agreed to give me a chance. I said, maybe give me an assignment and see if it stands up to your expectations. If it does, then you can decide if I'm the right person or not. And they agreed. So they gave me a test. I took a couple of days. I did some research. I put up a good presentation in place, sent it across to them, and pretty much I think it did the work, and they were convinced, and they called me back for another interview, a quick discussion. I took them through the presentation. I presented it, what the ideas were, how I approached them, and I think that did the work, and they were convinced that okay, I can move into digital, and I can bring that creativity and thought process even if I come from an out-of-home experiential background. One particular day there was this one video that was to be delivered to a client, and due to some reasons the copywriter could not turn up, and he had some issues, and he had to just kind of move out. Now again, I just found my opportunity there. I've always wanted to do something like script writing or conceptualizing, and while the founders there were basically figuring out that how do we tackle this situation, I went into their cabin. I said, hey, listen, I know this has happened, give me a chance, let me look at the scripts, let me see what I can do, and let me give it a try, and I'll share it with you. If you think it's worth, then I can take it ahead. So I came in, I did small bit of scripting, some tweaks here and there, got some feedback from the team, but basically took care of that project, went and met the client, presented. Basically we handled the situation pretty much. So after this particular project, the founders basically, they were convinced that okay, I am also capable of not just doing social media content, but actually conceptualizing video ideas or scripting explainer videos of sorts. And I started doing that for more often for them as well. So I think we pitched to a lot of brands. I wrote a lot of explainer videos for a lot of BFSI, technology brands, software brands, and a lot of them. And I think it was an immense learning experience. So I spent about some 6-7 months there. I had not really thought about moving anytime quicker as such, but somehow an opportunity came up in kind of a bigger role, and that made me switch into that next company, which we'll be talking about next. So this role was into integrated marketing communications. So my role over here was to report to and work with the CEO on umbrella brand communications, as a central thought for the brand. And once we've kind of closed that, then we would kind of brief the creative teams for mainline, for digital, for PR, or even say on ground and activations. And based on that central thought or the central brand strategy, then each of those divisions would basically come back with ideas for their particular mediums. So that was a very interesting role. So as a part of this agency, I worked on quite a few pitches over there. We won a couple of brands. I was a part of a huge national level event that the agency was handling, end to end. I was on ground at that particular event, and as a part of not just planning the content, but I also got to interview a lot of eminent personalities who were present at the place. And all in all, I think it was a great experience. So I spent a couple of months at this agency, and then unfortunately what happened was there were a few internal changes that were basically happening in terms of how they wanted each of the divisions to function, and the integrated division of sorts, or the integrated roles, were basically dissolved. Now, with the work that I had still done there, I was still offered to either join the PR or the activations team. But I figured that, that would be going back to square one, right? So I had to yet again figure out a new job for myself. And that's where the next agency happened. So I was out yet again interviewing both with mainline and digital agencies with my recently built portfolio of some work which was more creative and not out of home. But it was still a challenge to, get a decent place where I could basically use my skills. So I interviewed at a couple of mainline agencies. That did not work in my favor because they were pretty much looking for mainline-like experience. However, I did land up an interview at one of the most renowned digital marketing agencies out there. So while interviewing at this place as well, I was asked the same question about, that I've spent most of my time in out of home and then a little bit of time in some content companies. Then how do I fit the job? And that's where I came back with my one-line mantra. I threw it up to them. And once again, it kind of convinced them to at least give me a chance. And they gave me that chance. I gave one round of interview followed by an assignment. I took a couple of days, submitted the assignment, and pretty surprisingly, I was called back for an interview where I was grilled for about an hour simply to convince them that yes, I have worked on this presentation. This was my thought process. This is how I arrived to this idea. And that was followed by another 2 rounds. So I basically had like 3 rounds of interviews with 3 different, people in the hierarchy. And pretty much fortunately, again, something I'm very grateful for, I got that opportunity. So I got the role of a senior creative strategist at this digital agency. And I worked there for a good amount of, I think 2.5 years. And I think second year, I was also promoted to lead creative strategist over there. I learned a lot at this place, not just with the teams, not just with the mentorship of my seniors, but a lot of, team culture and collective learning that came along, working at this agency. So when I moved out from this place, my main aim was to basically find roles where I could grow as an individual, not just keep doing that work, but also have more responsibilities onto me. That's where I joined another digital agency and spent about a year there. And then an opportunity came by to basically join a mainline first agency and help them build a digital team. So that's what we are doing right now. And I think in this role, I'm not just applying my knowledge or learnings that I've had so far in my short span of humble experience so far, but I'm getting to learn a lot about leadership, about perseverance. So that was about my journey of moving from offline media to digital marketing. As promised, we are at the end of the video, and I will tell you about my one-line mantra which I used at these interviews, and I hope it gives you some perspective and it is something that you could apply to yourselves as well and see if it helps you. Now, one small disclaimer before I tell you that mantra. It is something that I strongly believed in as an individual. And I could always back that statement up with my experience and with the kind of work that I could do. So I would say that if you are ever using this line in an interview, make sure that you understand it actually. It's not just something you throw around, because people see through that crap. So what's the one-line mantra that I was basically talking about? So it is this: mediums or channels can always be learned. What makes me stand out is my understanding of strategy and marketing communications. I repeat, mediums and channels can always be learned. What makes me stand out is my understanding of the basics of strategy and marketing communications. Now, with this line, I was always able to convince people, recruiters, employers, whoever, the fact that I have an analytical mind. I was in outdoor, I adapted myself to thinking about outdoor ideas. When I was in content, I thought more about content. When I was in digital mediums, I thought digital. When I was in integrated, I thought brand. And I could adapt easily because I understood the basics of strategy, the basics of marketing. And once you know the basics of things, anything else can be learned. And if you can convince a recruiter or an employer or an interviewer that you know your basics right, then everything else after that is going to be smooth. So this one line is applicable universally, I think, to any kind of role in our advertising industry. So it could be client servicing, it could be creative, it could be design. If you understand the basics of it, where to apply, how to apply, to what kinds of mediums will always come in secondary and can always be taken care of. Now, obviously that's subjective based on how many years you've spent. I mean, if you've spent like 15, 20 years in only one medium and then you go to another, say, digital agency and say that, hey, I've worked in outdoor and I can pretty much do digital, that might become challenging. And this is where you will need a lot more to basically make your point. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from it. If you have further questions or if you're going through any other challenges, I would love to hear from you. Put it down in the comments and let me know what other questions I can answer. So don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time I put up a new video. Also, do visit www.mandalbhari.com and read more on my blog. If you found my content interesting, do share it with your friends and peers, and don't forget to follow me on my social media. Now, these are just pictures. I've included the links below in the description. So this is Mandal Bhari signing off for today, and I will see you in the next video.